Marketing in the future is like sex. Only the losers will have to pay for it. From a business standpoint, this stuff that Patrick came up with is a lot cheaper than doing Super Bowl ads. That's what it really means. So here's the issue with getting buzz and word of mouth, right? We can get scale, and you do paid advertising and, push a button and get 10 million people to see something. But they don't always believe us, and that's always the creative challenge in the advertising business, is how to do something over here that doesn't feel like ad-y, like advertising. What we really mean is that people believe it. And then you got this stuff down here, social media, PR, that sort of thing, that is organic, generally unpaid, and has incredible credibility, but sometimes, okay, we did this all one weekend. I remember when I was running Big Fuel social media agency my first week. We did this, and 11 people saw it. But they really liked it. I go, that's a hobby. That's not business. So the home run is here. By the way, it's always been there. So another way that I look at this technology is a way to get there at scale, to move from down there up there, and also from there to there, because I think this also is branding for free, because it's inherent in every point of contact, paid or unpaid. So instead of saying you have to do big brand advertising, everything carries that brand halo. So again, I'm just putting it into a business context. You get the brand for free. Okay, so what I think the measure of great brands going forward is quite simply the ratio of paid to earned. If you can measure how much paid I got versus how much earned, the really great brands are getting a lot of earned, and some of them are doing little to no paid. Some of the great brands that have appeared in the last 20 years, Tesla, Airbnb, and to some extent Red Bull, haven't really been built on mass advertising and mass marketing. So this to me is if I were going to take one metric of what a great brand is today, that's the metric I believe is the closest. So another characteristic I think is marketing. We grew up with marketing as an intrusion, because we talked to 50 million people at a time. We tried to find the lowest common denominator. So therefore, it's an intrusion, because most of the people we're talking to, most of the time we're talking to them, aren't interested in what we're trying to sell them. Therefore, it's a bother, and the devil's deal that we made is you get this TV show or whatever for free, but you have to watch this or suffer through or avoid these things that aren't relevant to you, right? So marketing to me is now going to be the opposite. It's going to be a service that you'd almost pay for. You're walking down the street and you really love this one wine that you can't find, and I text you and go, that wine just came in right there, 100 yards behind you. That's a service that you'd almost pay for. Recommendation engines. You like this book, so you might like that book. That's marketing, but it really is a service. It's positioned as a service. And that's where I think marketing is going. And a cousin of that is that great marketing is not recognizable as marketing, right? So, Small Business Saturday, American Express, where Obama tweeted to support it. Do you think if it was overtly commercial and felt like marketing that Obama would tweet saying, nice Super Bowl ad? That isn't happening, right? So part of the whole thing, I think that Patrick's onto is this idea that it's uncommercial, it's pure, it has a higher purpose, and it isn't seen as ever trying to sell anything. So my last slide before I get into some examples are metrics. I think there's a non-linear multiplier in this that people don't talk about. When I started in this business, there was the 80-20 rule. We all know what that is. There were campaigns like Miller, Schaefer's the one beer to have when you're having more than one, heavy user. Today, the ROI is not only the lifetime value of me, but the lifetime value of all the people that I recruit into the franchise, and the lifetime value of all the people they recruit. So it becomes nonlinear and geometric. So it's more like the 96-4 principle than the 80-20 principle. I think that's where it is. It's getting people 100% bought in who are the right people, and those people are worth potentially hundreds of times more than just a regular consumer. So, who knows the most about eliciting and nourishing really commitments? We're really talking about commitment. It's really political, social, and cultural movements, and that's what we're going to use as our examples. So what I think primary branding really is about is commitment, whereas marketing that I grew up with was about reach. It was about billion people, we stick it on a shelf, and everybody knows about it, and they buy it. Top of the funnel, and this is kind of a lot more narrow and deep. So, commitment, that's my word. Now we'll talk about how people do it. You know this already? 3 examples. James Bond franchise, Nazism, and Burning Man. Okay, James Bond, my favorite for obvious reasons. James Bond. That's the original James Bond movie. So the great thing about all of these assets is that you don't actually notice them as marketing. You don't really consciously notice them, and that's why they're so credible, right? They just kind of hit you here. But when you take them away, what you get is pretty crappy, right? So that's what it looks like without all of this stuff. So let's look at what it looks like with all of it. Okay. Okay. So, pretty good.
Well, what is the hardest thing that you sort of encountered?
The hardest thing to encounter is the people playing. In a lot of corporate environments, people they only really care about the optics. They don't really care if it works, to be honest. They just care about how it looks and how they look. And I really believe that most agencies are in the risk reduction business, whether they want to be or not. So we all think we're about brilliant, genius, inspirational ideas, but most of the time they pick agencies. They don't actually pick an agency. They just eliminate till there's only one left. So you ever notice why when you win something, they don't go, "We love you, thanks." They go, "Well, we wanted to tell you you won," because they didn't pick you. You're the last one left, okay? So you're just like, my chances of getting fired are lowest with you. It's not inspirational. So that really stinks. Anyway, so I have a zillion examples from that, but that's always the thing that leads to, the pain.
So obviously, you just sort of alluded to it, but agencies and service businesses are sort of under siege right now. It's definitely not in vogue like it was a decade ago or beyond that when you started some of your businesses. If you were to go and start a service-based business or an agency today, what might that look like, and how do you believe that would exceed the sort of under siege that the market is right now?
Well, the issue is that you have to be an expert at something. And you have to be the expert at something that's important, that creates pain, so that when I'm looking to solve that problem that's a significant problem, there are very few people or companies that can actually do it. And then you need to own that tip of the spear. And it's like medicine in the Wild West, There was one doctor per town. He did all the diseases, the animals too, right? And then today that's called the general practitioner, and that's the worst paid doctor you can be. So I want to be a brain surgeon, not just a surgeon, because brain, heart, yeah, you go ahead, just take it out. Yeah. Oh, you're the best brain surgeon and I have a brain tumor? Well, can you do it for a little less? And I'm a procurement agent. That doesn't happen, right? So that's who we have to be. And people don't like that because they go, well, a client walked in and they wanted X and I do Y. So now all of a sudden I do X and Y and now I do Z. So you can do all of those things, but you can't be famous for all of those things. You got to have something that's the tip of the spear, which is why you exist. You could still do other things once they trust you, but it's too broad, not nearly narrow enough. Anyway, that's what. Oh, I wish I could find this letter. There's some letters that he's written to people that are hysterical. You know, when different things happen, he's just very ornery and ballsy, and you know, the fact that he quit the franchise and was he on like the Tonight Show, and they said, who is the most evil supervillain of them all? And he said, Albert R. Broccoli. That's James Bond, right? So I think it's that, not just that he was the first, that's who he really is.